I sit on this bench day after day, watching an endless procession of lives pass before me. Each person who walks through those heavy oak doors carries something unseen: worry, regret, fear, sometimes quiet desperation. Most cases are routine: traffic tickets, minor disputes, the occasional lapse in judgment. But every so often something comes along that stills the room completely. A case that reminds you the law is not just about rules, it's about people, about dignity. That Tuesday, the rain lashed against the tall windows of Providence Municipal Court, casting everything in a dull, gray light. I was already tired, working through a stack of files that never seemed to shrink. When I called the next case, the estate of Arthur Vance versus the city, I expected another procedural matter. What I got instead was something far heavier. Arthur Vance shuffled toward the bench, a 90-year-old man worn thin by time. His suit was decades old, neatly pressed but hanging loosely from his fragile frame. His hand trembled violently as he gripped his cane. Tap, 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 each strike against the floor echoing through the courtroom. It wasn't just age in that sound, it was fear. Beside him stood his son, Richard. Where Arthur looked diminished, Richard looked polished. Expensive suit, perfect posture, the kind of confidence that comes from always being in control. But something about the way he stood, too close, too forceful, made it clear he wasn't there to support his father. He was there to direct him. Richard wasted no time. He stepped forward, voice smooth and rehearsed, speaking about his father as if he weren't even present. "My father is struggling, Your Honor. I'm here to handle this for him." Handle, not help. The case file painted a troubling picture: unpaid property taxes, a deteriorating home, mounting fines, and attached to it was a request: declare Arthur mentally incompetent, transfer control of the estate, and approve the immediate sale of the house. A house Arthur had lived in for 50 years. I looked at the old man. He wouldn't meet my eyes. His shoulders were hunched inward, as if he were trying to disappear. Then I looked at the son, smiling. That was when I stopped reading the papers. "Arthur," I said gently, ignoring Richard entirely, "do you want to sell your home?" Richard jumped in immediately, trying to intercept the question. I raised my hand and cut him off cold. "I am speaking to your father." The room went still. Arthur slowly lifted his head. His eyes were cloudy, but there was something behind them, something aware, something present. I don't want to be a burden," he whispered. It sounded rehearsed, planted. "That's not what I asked," I said quietly. "Do you want to sell your home?" Arthur hesitated. His grip tightened on the cane. He glanced at his son, and Richard gave him the smallest nod. "It's for the best," Arthur murmured. "Richard says so." That was the moment everything shifted. This wasn't about taxes. This was about control. As I began asking questions, the cracks in Richard's story widened quickly. He claimed Arthur was forgetful, irresponsible, yet the record showed 47 years of perfect payments, with problems only beginning 3 years ago. What changed 3 years ago? Richard said, "Dementia." Arthur said, "Richard took the mailbox key." Silence filled the courtroom. Piece by piece, the truth surfaced. Arthur hadn't been neglecting his responsibilities. He'd been cut off from them. No access to bills, no access to money, no doctor visits in 2 years, living on canned soup and half doses of aspirin. Meanwhile, Richard's records told a different story: cash withdrawals, casino charges, luxury spending. This wasn't mismanagement, it was exploitation. When confronted, Richard didn't deny it. He justified it. "I deserve that money," he snapped. "Do you know what it's like taking care of him?" The audacity of it settled over the room like a storm. I looked at Arthur. The trembling had stopped. In its place was something worse: realization. "You told me we were poor," he said, voice breaking. "I sat in the dark to save money." And Richard, without a trace of shame, rolled his eyes. That was enough. I stood. "You see your father as an asset," I said, my voice cutting through the room, "a liability to be liquidated." I picked up the deed transfer document and read the buyer's name: RV Holdings, LLC, Richard Vance. He wasn't just selling the house, he was stealing it. Right then, everything changed. The motion was denied, the incompetence claim dismissed. Richard was stripped of power of attorney on the spot. Keys, mailbox, bank cards, all surrendered immediately. Arthur took the keys in his trembling hand, holding them like something sacred. For the first time in years, they belonged to him again. But we weren't finished. Richard's own documents, his carefully prepared evidence, had just exposed him. Bank statements, transactions, records, all now part of the court file. All admissible. All of this, I told him, placing a hand on the binder, goes to the district attorney. His face drained of color. Moments later, he was in handcuffs, and the man who had called his father a burden was suddenly begging that same father to save him. Arthur stood there, steady now. "I can't help you," he said quietly. "I'm incompetent. Remember?" There was a strange kind of justice in that. When the doors finally closed behind Richard, the courtroom felt lighter, as if something toxic had been removed. Arthur stood alone, but not broken. Free. "Your house is safe," I told him, "and so are your roses." He nodded, tears in his eyes, but this time they weren't from fear. As he walked out, the sound of his cane echoed once more. Tap, tap, tap. But now it was steady. Not fear, not weakness, just a man walking back toward his life.